Let's bring in CTV News political commentator Tom Mulcair, former leader of the NDP. Tom, good to see you. And let's start, if I can, with that breaking news out of Washington that there has been a meeting now between the Carney government's trade minister, so to speak, on U.S.-Canada trade, Dominic LeBlanc, and Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. Your take?
Well, this dovetails with Friday's announcement by Prime Minister Carney that he was removing some of Canada's counter tariffs. Now, that caught a lot of people off guard. Why would we remove those when we've been through all of that with Donald Trump? But it became clear that Canada had not been as clever as the United States about avoiding to put tariffs or counter tariffs on things that are covered by the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade deal. So the Americans were sitting pretty, saying, you've got to remove this irritant, you've got to get rid of those. So we did that, but this time around, we made sure we negotiated something, and that was the proper continuation of the trade talks, which Trump confirmed over the weekend that that was the deal. Carney had already said as much, and we, lo and behold, today, we got the Lutnick meeting, of course, with Dominic LeBlanc, and just as importantly, Kirsten Hillman, our extraordinary ambassador to the U.S., was there, and Marc-Andre Blanchard. He shouldn't be underestimated. He's somebody used to making deals, and at the highest level, and he's very tough-minded, very understated. It's very easy to underestimate his role in this, but having him in that room could help move things along decidedly.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out what it does and doesn't mean. So we have a meeting going on this morning. Donald Trump recently talked, Tom, about how he liked Mark Carney and he wanted, to help Canada. It's hard to know what that means because the president says a lot of different things all over the map sometimes. What is the best case scenario here for Canada?
The best case scenario is that we're starting to put the ball on the tee for the negotiation of CUSMA 2. So we've got, it's already programmed. It's got to start, next year, 2026. It's around the corner. We've got to start renegotiating that deal. So one of the trickiest parts for Canada and other trade partners, but in this one, it's the case of Canada and Mexico. You're dealing with the Americans, you have a deal. And they say, but by the way, we're Americans, and we're always going to keep control of our borders against dangers if there's any national security issue. So they've come up with some that make no sense at all. So the Americans say, well, fentanyl at the border, Canada, I mean, you're just not doing enough. So we played the game, even though we knew that 0.1% of the fentanyl going into the States actually came from Canada. We named a fentanyl czar, very distinguished person from law enforcement, gave him a budget, and was saying, we're going to toughen the border on that stuff. Then it was things like, well, all of a sudden, you can understand minerals, you can understand steel, aluminum, and all of a sudden, lumber? I mean, what are the Americans worried about in terms of their national security, that we're going to go hit them with baseball bats made out of Canadian lumber? So it doesn't hold together, but Donald Trump has made his career about fighting in court, using every trick in the book. And if there's an escape clause, he's going to use it. So Canada and Mexico have got to keep an eye on that. Any new deal has to preclude this constant use by the Americans of the idea that somehow their national security is at stake and that somehow justifies these ridiculous tariffs.
Can I ask you just quickly as well before we go about the trip to Europe and your takeaways on the Prime Minister being in Latvia?
Highly successful.
Yeah.
Just a highly successful trip. He was outstanding, frankly, in Kyiv, in Ukraine on Saturday on Independence Day. His speech is worth remembering because you could sense that it was him. On the economic side of things, he's had successful visits now to Poland, creating a much stronger, tighter, economic partnership there, strategic partnership with Germany on things like energy and critical minerals. And now, of course, in Latvia, talking about the front line and the role that the Canadian troops are going to be continuing to play for the next few years. You can sense that he's at ease in what he's doing. Todd, you've been on that plane for trips like this. You know what this is like. I mean, it's exhausting. And yet he's out there in full control of the facts and his files, smiling his way through it. And I think that it's been a very successful trip for him and for Canada. And it reminds the Americans, and this all comes together, it reminds the Americans that when we say that we have other trading partners and other opportunities, we do. We just haven't put that much emphasis or effort into them. Why? Because we had this American partnership. But as Carney has said since the election campaign, that deal with the Americans, where we were close partners, the closest in the world, and we were, always there for each other and taking care and making sure that everything was in lockstep, that's over. Donald Trump has destroyed that, And that's the new reality. So we're going to be working with new partners around the world, trying to create new trade opportunities for the country. And I think we just had a great example of it over the past few days with Carney's trip to Europe.
CTV News political commentator Tom Mulcair, former leader of the NDP, joining us from Quebec. Good to see you, Tom, as always. Thank you.
Great to be with you, Todd. All the best.